Okay, well, thank you. My name is Mary and I'm an alcoholic. And all this talk of New York just reminds me, oh my God, so I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in Missouri, and I was the first girl in my family to go to college. And I went to college in New York. I'm from a big Irish Catholic family. My mother is one of 15 and my father was one of 11. We all lived in the same neighborhood. It's like the old days. And I took the train. I took the train from Missouri to New York and I got off at Grand Central Station. And I know there's a really great bar across the street from Grand Central Station. I can't remember the name of it, but I can remember that I stole a lot of paintings off the walls when I was drunk. And I also remember how many bars there are on Third Avenue. And um, and then I remember taking the train from New York City to Tarrytown, where I got off to go to college. And I don't. And what I remember is my first weekend in college, I went to a bar and got drunk and crawled back up the steps of this college, and there was a nun standing at the top of the steps and tapping her foot. And she said to me, my name used to be Begley, Mary Begley, your campist. And so my first weekend in college, I was drunk, I was campused, and everybody knew my name. And the second week in college, I was elected president of my class, only because everybody knew my name, not for any other reason. And God, I just remember, honestly, I just remember getting drunk all the time in New York. I mean, not during the day because, of course, we had the nuns who were, watching out for us. By the way, just so you know, I sponsor a nun and I'm really tough on her. Revenge is sweet. But anyway, I got kicked out of that school after my first year for my drinking. And my mother told me, never tell anybody in the family. These were the golden rules. My mother said the very same thing to me when I told her I was sober. Never tell anybody in the family. Anyway, I got kicked out of the college and then I got back in. And then I graduated from that college. And then I went back home to St. Louis. And by then I was a full-blown alcoholic, but I didn't know it because you see, I thought that because I had a college education and most of my family did not. And I saw them. I mean, I saw my Aunt Loretta. I don't think she ever breathed a sober breath. She would tie taps on her shoes at all the parties and wildly tap dance around and pass out. And my Uncle Joe would read the letters of the dead grandmother and they'd all sing the songs. And but they weren't educated, so I thought I'm not like them. I'm not like these people. And and then I went back to St. Louis, and the couple things I sort of remember is I got a job at a newspaper, and I promise you, then I don't know about now. Journalists are so goody two shoes now, but then everybody went to the bar across the street and got drunk. As soon as you finished writing your story, you just went across the street to the bar and got drunk. And that's what we did. We got drunk and we laughed at the people who didn't get drunk and we thought there was something wrong with them. And a couple things I remember was once on my way home, I crashed into a White Castle hamburger place drunk. And another time I remember going down the driveway of my parents' house and kind of crashing into the house. But did I think I was an alcoholic? No, because I had this great job. Because no, I wasn't like them. And so what happened is I had a great job. I was living at home, but I met a boy and he lived in Los Angeles and I left everything. I just left everything. I left my job, my family, everything. Came across the country and moved to Los Angeles for this boy who I barely knew. I think I only knew him about 2 weeks, you know. but he had a great name, Murphy. So, I mean, what can you do? Mary Murphy, it's a great name. So I come across and I'm just in love with this boy. But of course, I can't live with him because I'm an Irish Catholic and you didn't do that then. You didn't do those things. And I got a job at another newspaper. And God, the greatest thing about that newspaper was the bar across the street. It was called the Redwood. And every day after I finished my stories, I went to the Redwood Bar and I got drunk and drove drunk. It's funny, recently I was downtown in Los Angeles and I drove that drive out the freeway that I used to drive drunk all the time. And I always was stopped by the cops. But then of course they didn't arrest you. They would say, honey, how much have you had to drink? And I always thought they were saying, would you like to go on a date? That's what I actually thought they were saying. But they would just say, can you get off the freeway? And you'd get off the freeway, and that's it. I don't know why they thought driving drunk on the streets was better than driving drunk. And anyway, so I did that, and then I kept getting better jobs. Seriously, I just kept getting better jobs. Kept getting jobs that would like take me around the world. Drunk on planes, drunk all over the world, drunk every place I went. And oh my gosh, my granddaughter's in the house. Hold on. All right. So she's 3. So you'll have to just hi, Rosie. Hi. Here, come here. Just for a minute, say hi. Hi. They can't see you, but see, here she is. See, there's Rosie. So, Rosie, I have to talk to my friends for a minute, okay? And then I'll come and talk to you, okay? What is this? This is a necklace. Oh. Okay, I'll see you in a minute. Sorry, this is my life now. Anyway, so what happened to me was I kept going in the hospital. Um, but in the other side of the hospital, like I kept going in, I would have, my back, I'd have bleeding ulcers, I'd have all these things and finally, when I got out of the hospital once, they said I need to go to like physical therapy or Pilates or something. And so I went and the guy who I went to the Pilates was sober in AA. Now, this is 1976. No one was breaking their anonymity. I mean, no one. Now, if you're sober a minute, you're online breaking your anonymity, but not then. Nobody was breaking their anonymity, but this guy did. And I would ask him questions like, do you think that if I don't know, when I start drinking, I can't remember what I do afterward, or I can't remember. I didn't know what a blackout, I didn't even know the name blackout. Do you think I might have a drinking problem? You might, he'd say, do you think this? You might. I didn't tell him the real truth, the truth we all know about ourselves, that we are insecure and we don't feel worthy and we don't feel good enough. And I was writing for this major magazine, and I remember just sitting, trying to write, thinking, I'm no good, I'm no good, I'm no good, but not telling anybody this, not telling a soul. Anyway, so I remember that I had to go to New York on a business trip, and I said to the guy, he asked me if I wanted to go to AA. I said no. And I said I had to go to New York on a business trip for 3 days. And I said, I've never, ever been to New York without getting drunk. And all he said to me was, why don't you just try? See, these simple phrases that people used just saved my life. Why don't you just try? So I tried. I was in New York for 3 days. I didn't get drunk. I couldn't believe it. I didn't drink. And then I came back and he said he wanted to take me to a meeting and he made me drive my own car. Now I know how brilliant that was. See, he wouldn't drive me in his car. He wanted me to walk into AA on my own, and I did. And I walked in to an AA meeting on my own, and I sat next to a woman. I mean, how magnificent is God? I am a writer. I sat next to a woman who was a writer. I used to use speed just to write, and so did she. But she was sober 2 years. And she said words that changed my life. She said to me, "Would you like to have a cup of coffee after the meeting?" Cup of coffee after the meeting. And I said yes. And she said to me, what about, when's the last time you had a drink? And what about anything else? And I said, well, everything I take is prescribed by doctors. And she said, well, you need to throw everything out. Throw everything out. I had like 40 bottles of alcohol in my house for parties. I had all these prescriptions, all this stuff. And I did it. And I went absolutely insane. I went just 19 July, my sobriety date is July 4th, 1977. I went absolutely insane. I was married to Mr. Murphy. I was living with somebody else. And at my second meeting, oh, okay, they shut the door. Good. I didn't want Rosie to hear this. At my second meeting, I fell madly in love. I mean, madly in love. A guy, there were keys on a chair. I threw him on the floor. A guy tapped me on the shoulder and said, that's my seat. And I looked up and I thought, I love you. Of course, everyone kept saying, he's gay, but of course I didn't believe him. I didn't pay one bit of attention to it. And he was. But by the way, we're both sober 48 years still, which is so great. But anyway, I only went to crazy meetings. I didn't go to like sane meetings. And one of the meetings I went to, and I never wanted to raise my hand. I never wanted to raise my hand. And one of the meetings I used to go to, there was a guy there who brought he brought rolls of toilet paper with him to the meeting, and he would roll them out and write on them like a manifesto. I don't know. And then there was a lady there who was experiencing homelessness, so she had a whole bunch of bags with her, and then a guy without his shirt on. And the first time I ever said anything in a meeting was somebody said, "You have to say you're an alcoholic." And I said, the first thing I ever said was, "My name is Mary. I'm an alcoholic and I don't want to tell my mother." It's the first thing I ever said. And somebody took me outside that meeting and lined me up with the guy with the toilet paper and the guy without the shirt and the homeless lady. And she took a picture of me with them. And she sent me the picture and she said, "Send this to your mother and tell her these are your new friends." Oh. Now, my mother, she lived in St. Louis, and I think the mandate in my family to me, I believe now, I believe this, that was I was to be the successful one. And so my mother kept all the stories I wrote, and she did all this, and then I had to fly home to St. Louis when I, wrote my inventory, and then I went home to make amends, and I was terrified. I was literally terrified to make amends to my mother. And so I checked into a hotel. I'd never checked into a hotel in my hometown ever. And about an hour later, there was a knock on my hotel room door. It was my mother. She came and checked in the same hotel, and she wanted to know why I was staying in a hotel. So I told her that I was sober in AA, and that's when she said, never tell anybody in the family and never talk about it on the telephone. I don't know why she said that, but that was what she said. Never talk about it on the telephone. So, okay. So now, I'm in AA. I go to a lot of meetings, but I'm just crazy. I just date one crazy guy after the other. I just do. I just can't. I don't know what it is. I can't. I and I remember also my the founder of the magazine that I worked for in New York came out to Los Angeles after when I was about 8 months sober, and he wanted to know what was wrong with me. He said, "Are you on drugs? Because why aren't you doing the kind of work you've always done?" And I had to say to him, "No, I'm I'm not on drugs. I'm not drinking, and I'm not on drugs. And if you want that person who wrote all those cover stories for you last year, you'll have to get somebody else. You'll have to let me go." I mean, how brave are we, when we're newly sober, when we decide to put AA first? So anyway, he didn't let me go, and he got me some, I mean, really wonderful editors. All my editors who lived in New York. I mean, but the one thing I remember, I always remember when I was new at a meeting, a guy would say, whenever you're writing anything, you put at the top of the page, "God guide my words." So I would, and sometimes I'd forget to take that off the top, and I'd send the story to New York, and these editors were like, "What the hell?" But anyway, so I kept that job, and I was sober, but I was crazy. I was crazy. I wanted to, I wanted to talk to you, but I didn't want to hear what you had to say to me. I just did not want to listen to what you had to say to me. And I had this first sponsor who I met at the meeting, and then I got another sponsor who I just love, this woman, Terry. She's dead now. And I wrote my inventory. I always remember, it's funny because I'd been to therapy many times before I got sober. But in therapy, all the secrets that I kept, I realized were from myself. It wasn't until I wrote my inventory that I realized, because I used to say, "Oh, my father was never home." But what the truth was, my father took a second job so he could send me to this great college. Or, my brother left when I was 3, which he did. Um, but I didn't know what it meant when they say left to become a priest. I didn't know what that meant. All I know is he left me. And because of that, I always had, I hate to admit this, I always had 2 boyfriends. One, and then in case that one left, I'd have another one just so I wouldn't be abandoned. And here I am. I don't know any of this. I don't know any of it. I, I, I don't know any of this until I write my inventory. And then I write my inventory, and then more will be revealed, but I'm still crazy. I'm still just wild. And I went to a meeting one night, and this guy Clancy was speaking at a meeting, and he I don't know what he said, honestly. The only thing I remember is he said he was from the Midwest and I was from the Midwest. And he asked me after the meeting, he asked me after the meeting, he said, "Do you want to come to Skid Row tomorrow and have a cup of coffee with me?" And I thought, "You want me to come to Skid Row?" And I thought, "Are you crazy?" But I went, okay, sat in this guy's office, and he said some things to me. He said, "Why is someone as intelligent as you, as well educated as you, and as successful as you treating AA this way?" And I had no idea what he was talking about. I didn't know that he meant like dating all these crazy people, leaving meetings early, coming late, being just crazy. I didn't understand any of it. And I started crying, and he said, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "Oh, because of my boyfriend." And he said, "Well, who's your boyfriend?" And I said, "Well, I bought a house without reading what I signed. By the way, don't ever do that, anybody." And what I had signed was this thing that said that 1 year after purchase, I owed $90,000 1 year after purchase. And so I got a call asking me how I was going to be paying it. And I put the phone in a drawer thinking, well, maybe if I don't hear it ring, I don't have to pay attention. But anyway, what did happen was I started dating the man who was foreclosing on my house. Would stop. So I went down, I was at the Midnight Mission sitting on Skid Row, and I started crying. And Clint said, why? And I told him I was dating the man who was foreclosing on my house. And he said, when are you going to see him next? And I said, I'm taking him to see the play Evita tomorrow night. Many people had told me to break up with this guy, but I just wouldn't listen. And so Clancy asked me if I'd take a walk around Skid Row. So I walked all around Skid Row in Los Angeles, all past all these guys, in their boxes and all these wine bottles everywhere. And Clancy wrote me a note and he handed it to me and he said, what I'm going to ask you to do is as difficult as asking these guys to stop drinking wine. And the note said, tear up the tickets to Evita and cancel out. And he was asking me to do the one thing that everybody in AA had been asking me to do that I wouldn't do, which is surrender to some voice that was louder than my own, to surrender, not to keep dating the guy who was foreclosing on my house, to surrender. And I honestly, I didn't even understand it, but I did go home and I did call the guy and I did break up with him. And then my life started to change. I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it was changing. Everybody said to me, everybody in LA, I don't know if any of you know the Pacific group, but everybody said to me, do not go to that group. They're just militaristic, whatever they are. And I don't know. I went and I got a job. I took a commitment cutting brownies. And right after I took the commitment, the magazine I was working for asked me to do an interview with this really famous celebrity um, who lived in Malibu, who never talked to anybody, but it was on a Wednesday, the same, was the same. The meeting was that night. And I thought, well, that's fine. But the guy wouldn't shut up. He literally would not shut up. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be late for cutting the brownies. And then I thought to myself, well, once I tell the woman who's the head of the commitment, like, quote, how important I am, she won't care. So I went in, I was late, and I said to her, well, just so you know where I was. And she said to me, I don't care where you were. If you're ever late again, you're off the commitment. And I don't know what it was about that. I can't even tell you what it was about that. But there was something about the fact that I was just being asked to be one of in AA, just one of, nothing special, nothing. All I had to do was be on time to cut the brownies. It took so much pressure off of me. It just did. It just took the pressure off of me. And I started going to that meeting and I always had little commitments. I don't like big commitments. I was like, I poured water, I was a cake lady. Things like that. I had been told by doctors I would never have a child. And so then I married a man. We both had the same profession. I married a man who had a son whose mother was in a mental institution, had abandoned him. And then when I was 38 years old, I got pregnant. It's like, what? I remember my nice Jewish doctor from Beverly Hills said to me, has anybody ever told you Irish Catholics about sex because you're pregnant? And I thought, no, I thought I could never be pregnant. And anyway, so I got pregnant and then I lost the baby and then I got pregnant again. And then I had My daughter, who's, if you saw that little girl who was in here before, my 3-year-old granddaughter, um, my daughter and son-in-law lost their apartment. Now they all live with me. So if you want to know what I do every morning, I get up and dance to K-pop Demon Hunters and other songs. But okay, so now I'm married and I have kids and I'm a working mom and I'm a carpool mom and I just do it. I mean, because I understood, from the beginning, I think I understood that I had to put AA first, that I couldn't have anything without it. One problem I had a lot was that I was always late for everything, always. And I don't know whether now I think it was because when I get the adrenaline, when I got to get there, the light's red. But I don't know what it was, but I was late for everything and late for work stuff, late, whatever. And I remember I was meeting Clancy at a coffee shop and I was late. And I started crying and said, I don't know how to be on time. And he said, 2 words, changed my life. Leave earlier. Leave earlier. I had never thought about that. Leave earlier. I'm on time for everything now. I'm on time. I'm early. I'm early for airplanes. I'm early for everything. I'm early. I'm just early. And so my life started to change. In and what was interesting is that it seemed all the same. There are a lot of people here who look like maybe they're sober a long time. So um, when I was, I think 25, 26 years sober, I'd had the same job forever. I'd had the same marriage, the same everything, and then everything fell apart. My the job, they told me, we love you so much, but we're letting you go. And then um, I wrote an inventory about my marriage because I needed to. And my husband, who is a good journalist and who knew I was writing it, crawled through my closet, pulled a chest out, got my briefcase, and read my inventory. And so my marriage was over. My job was over. My marriage is over. I'm like, oh my God, my life is over. But it turned out that what people said to me in AA was, no, it's not over. It's just beginning. But I couldn't believe that, but it was true. So at like 28 years of sobriety, my life just started over again. I fell madly in love. I got this job on television. I mean, I was like the oldest person at the whole show. I had this, and then I got this other job traveling the world, writing stories about people doing good works. And suddenly, sober, I'm like in India and Sri Lanka and Cambodia, and I'm 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 all over the world as a sober woman. And I think, is this, I thought, I guess I really did. I thought it was over. I thought, oh, I guess when you're 60, it's over. But it turns out we live our life backwards. And that's what I did. See, I thought I was going to have all this when I was 28. No, ended up just the reverse. So now I'm madly in love and I'm traveling and I'm sponsoring people and I love AA. I do. I mean, AA has literally saved. I was thinking about this the other day. I went to this doctor, and I asked the doctor, I said, if I hadn't stopped smoking and drinking, what do you think I'd be like now? And she said, you'd be dead. Because when I came to AA, I had no idea. See, I thought I came here really seriously because I fell into the bushes at the Academy Awards with two men. I mean, that's what really brought me in. But I thought I came here not to be in the bushes anymore. But it turns out I came here for all these reasons that had I had no clue. None. So, my fiance died about 5 years ago, and before he died, he said something to me that I think really was very insightful. He said to me, he said, "You're the most resilient person I've ever met." And I think I took that as like, okay. And so now I have another job. Now I'm a professor, but I don't tell any of my students how wild I was in school, or they would never listen to me. But, now I spend my life um, like giving back. Like I didn't know, I had no idea that when I walk across this campus and realize that not only am I helping young people, but they're helping me. I had no idea that this was a life I wanted. I just thought I wanted a life like, I don't know what I thought I wanted the life. I just thought I wanted to get out of St. Louis is what I thought. I thought I wanted to get away from my big Irish Catholic family. But in fact, in AA, I feel much closer. I feel like I am part of a big family. You're not all Irish Catholic, but I feel that you're part of it. And so this year, I think I just have a few minutes left. So, as I said, my daughter and son-in-law and the baby, they lost their apartment. Um, and they had to move in with me. And I thought, well, okay, maybe just a few weeks. But they've been here, and everybody thinks it's such a great idea. Oh, Mary, you don't have to live alone. And I'm thinking, yeah, but I'd like to live alone sometimes. But here's the thing, my life is so full. It is difficult for me to understand the power that Alcoholics Anonymous has had in my life. I mean, for decades. I'm 48 years sober. I can't even believe that I'm sober this long. I can't believe that my job is not, about me. My job is to try to take care of you. And we are really selfish people. I was really selfish and really didn't care how I hurt other people. And now I do care. And now, I think this is just the last thing I'll say. It's funny. I didn't realize until I got sober that saying I am sorry, we don't like to say I am sorry, but when we do, they seem like such hard words to say, but when we do, we are freed. We are just freed. We are freed from ourselves. We are freed from our own defense. I'm going to defend myself. You're wrong. I'm right. It's just quite amazing. So anyway, I don't know if I have anything else to say, but thank you for asking me.